We've long thought of music as a mode of abstract expression, as something that we do for both fun as for profit. But have we ever thought about music in its original purpose, that perhaps it was a tool for survival, a way of healing, both for the individual as well as for the community? Music has been played by everyone at all times and all places. It's both ubiquitous and universal. Yet, nowadays, music is an option among many things, something that we can do to entertain. But when we think about music, it also has this way of calming us, of working its way into us. And so the question still drifts, what exactly does music do? What is it supposed to do? About 9 years ago, I traveled to Istanbul, to Constantinople, and I found a small stack of 78 RPM discs. I'm a collector of these discs. I remaster them. I tell stories through them. New music to me are old 78s that I've not heard. But when I came to America after finding these discs and listening to them, I realized this was indeed new music. It grabbed me in the same way that Delta blues or early country music grabbed me, that is to say, viscerally and by the throat. These discs that I found represented what I thought was a lost biosphere of music. What I came to realize that these came from a region of northwestern Greece called Epirus, a place that I would soon find out contains this lost functionality of music, this way that music should heal the individual, should heal the community. I began working on a book after discovering these records, and I wanted to travel to Epirus to unpack this mechanism of how the music affected me, to figure out how it worked. And as I dived deeper into the music, I wondered what was going on. And so a question came to mind that was proposed by this ethnomusicologist, John Blacking. He wanted to find out what music was. He proposed music is humanly organized sound. But what he nor no other ethnomusicologist did at that time was to ask, to what reason do we organize music, organize sound? Why do we make music? Of course, music throughout the world, among North American Indians and Aborigines, among tribes in Africa and Asia, have had ceremonial purposes. It's used to heal individuals. But over time, these things have become touristic among globalism. In the Western world, we're sort of taught that music is something that you dance to or you listen to in a passive way. I did not realize until I came to Epirus that there was a different mode, a different way of approaching music. In fact, that music could be constructed in order to move us deeply, to heal us. And so I wrote a book about this obsession that I caught on to, and it's called Epirtiko Mirloi, Lament from Epirus. And I will try to talk about 4 ways that I discovered how music is delivered as medicine, how music is medicine among the people and musicians of Epirus. First, I want to play a little bit of a disc that was recorded in 1926 by Alexis Zumbas of the village of Grameno. This was recorded in New York City. This is Epirtiko Mirloi. This is an example of a mirloi played in Epirus. Now, mirloi are lamentations that have been sung throughout the Greek-speaking world for thousands of years. You find mirloi in the poetry of Homer. You find mirloi etched on tombstones. It literally means words of fate. They were originally intended to cause individual catharsis by the singing over a grave of someone who had recently died. But unique to Epirus, they took these vocalized lamentations and they crafted them into instrumentals that are played at the very beginning and at the very end of Panegyri, of the annual village celebrations. When I first encountered the live manifestation of mirloi played in the villages, I witnessed dozens of villagers all weeping, listening to the mirloi. I wept too. And in a way, I wondered, is this reaction to the mirloi inherited or learned? And on one hand, it could be something that's genetically bound to the people of Epirus. For instance, I was interviewing the niece of Kitsos Harisiadis, a legendary clarinet player, and I asked her, what is your favorite piece of music that your uncle used to play for you? And she said, mirloi. And I said, why? And she said, because it made me weep. And then I said, why did it make you weep? And she said, because it's a mirloi. On the other hand, I'd like to think that this type of music, it affects all of humanity, that somehow we're all predisposed. We have a predisposition towards being affected by deep music. Otherwise, how would it explain how I was moved by it? There's a Welsh writer, John Williams, who, after his wife died, a friend gave him a present. The present was an LP of this record. And at the wake of his wife, he played this. And the same thing that happened to me happened to him. He heard the piece of music and he had to visit the landscape that produced this music so that he could understand why. Another piece of music that I discovered that explains how music functions as medicine or as healing in Epirus is skaros. Skaros was originally a word used to describe when sheep would be taken out and they would find water or shelter or safety. The shepherds would play a piece of music, and it's known throughout the Balkans either as skaros or as zamara or as doina. And by playing this piece of music, the sheep would follow the notes of the shepherd and do what the shepherd wanted them to do. But within the context of Epirus in the Panegyri for music, the skaros is played around 2 o'clock in the morning in my village of Vitsa. And what happens is all the villagers circle the musicians and they stop and they listen. And the notes of the skaros, it calms them down. It makes them feel unified, at whole with everything. So I'm going to play for you a little bit of skaros as recorded by Kitsos Harisiadis in 1930. what was being played is a scale that's different from the scale used for mirloi. Mirloi is 5 notes, pentatonic. This is 6 notes. The name of this scale is negriz, and it's a very specialized scale that must be played precisely. It must be played perfectly. When I visited my village of Vița a couple years ago, I carried my violin down to play for the sheep, to play scaros. But because of jet lag, the notes didn't come out quite right. The notes were sort of flat. And so instead of attracting the sheep to me to take shelter or to take safety, I looked down at my feet and there was a rustling. What I had done was I had attracted a dozen or so Greek tortoises, and at my feet they were engaged in a reptilian orgy. The next thing I want to talk about that I discovered that to explain to me how music is medicine, music is healing in Epirus, is this concept of playing into. As you can see from the picture above, the young lady's being played into by a clarinetist, Yanis Haldoupas. The first thing that happens is a dancer or a listener wants to be played into, and they tell the musicians. And then they say, "TEDxAthens. Mend me, heal me, make me feel whole in your music." The first time that I visited Vița, the people there wanted me to dance samantakas, although I didn't know the movements. And they wanted me to lead the dance, and the musicians wanted to play into me, and I wanted to be played into. Here's what happened. The lady next to me, before the dance started, wrapped my arm in a white towel. She was bonded to me. And then I started dancing samantakas. The whole time, the clarinet player, Tomas Halianis, came closer and closer with his bell getting closer and closer to my ear until he felt like a snake descending upon its prey. And then the sound coming from his clarinet and the sound inside of my brain were one thing. There was no distinction, no mediation, only tone. And then everything went white. I didn't feel as if I had passed out. I felt as if I had passed over. And when I walked away from the dance, I felt as if I had left something behind. And as I walked towards my friends, I felt whole again. The last thing that I discovered being in Epirus is this very difficult concept that it's hard for Westerners to understand, and it's one of communal transcendence. See, as Westerners, we come to music as one of two things. Either it's something you dance to, or it's something you passively listen to. But in Epirus, music is something that you actively interact with. It becomes something with you. It heals you. It becomes part of you, but it also becomes part of a larger whole of the community. I call this concept communal transcendence. And because of the difficulty of understanding it, I interviewed a clarinetist, Yanis Haldoupas, and he explained to me that when he plays at Panegyria, he feels more like a doctor or a psychologist than a musician. He'll meet the people, he'll talk to them, and he'll find out what hurts, where they needed to be mended, what needs to be done. And then he will blend that medicine in his clarinet and play that for the people. He treats the people. There's communal transcendence in this music because there's something to the exerted, repeated physical actions of dancing, starting late at night until early in the morning with your friends and your family, dancing a dance that has been danced for hundreds, if not thousands of years in Greece. It results in something akin to communal pride, that we've crafted something that has persisted through the ages and that heals us because we treat it with respect. The music of Epirus heals us. It makes us whole. Ευχαριστώ.